Hey everybody, just want to address a few things before we get started with this video, as I've seen a couple of comments like these on the screen. And the short answer is yes, but there's more to it than that. Whenever I make scripts, it's always a struggle to maintain the thought and message delivery, which can lead to loopholes and inconsistencies. And they will sometimes confuse viewers and just call me out on like, you said this thing and you said another thing. So in this situation, I create a rough draft script that I write myself. Basically, it's still my script, but I use AI effectively. I use AI effectively to structure the message delivery of the video properly. And before I even press record, the script goes through numerous revisions. A lot of, I gotta fix this, I gotta fix that. I have to type them off myself. And the reason being, ChatGPT doesn't always get it right. It's still not perfect, you know? It's just funny how people are so quick to try. Emphasis on the word try, huh? It's so funny how people try to pull you down when you're going up. I can't really blame them though for their own reasons. Maybe there's some insecurities or their lack of success in their own lives. But that's on them. Everybody is free to comment stuff like this on my video. It's fine. It's a free space. And to be honest, I'm like stooping to a lower level for addressing kind of stuff like this. So in short, yes, this comment is 50% correct. But it's not as how we'd say naughty. Like who talks like that? Holy shit. It's only naughty when you let AI do all of the work. As a couple people might question how I create my videos, 1,000 more don't seem to mind. So let's just move on. Arena Breakout Infinite just added a new limited time game mode called melee only mode, and on paper it sounds like one of those ideas that should be chaotic, funny, and genuinely refreshing. Every operator loads in with what the game calls as basic gear, but let's be real here, you're basically naked. No armor, no secure case, just a chest rig with a few medkits, a surgical kit, stamina regen injectors, and the melee weapon of your choice. You can loot throwables from containers around the map, the safes around the area, but that's it. No guns, no armor, just a pure knife fight. The map itself is confined entirely to the Northridge Hotel, and from there, it's every operator for themselves. And honestly, my first few matches were really fun. It felt fresh, felt different. It reminded me that Arena Breakout Infinite can still experiment when it wants to. For a moment, it pulled me away from the usual meta, the usual gear fear, and the usual loop of a headshot with a red bullet. But the more I played it, the more the cracks started to show. Because while the idea is solid, the execution showed some flaws. Let's talk about it. Before diving into the problems that the game mode has, I just want to be clear about this. The game mode isn't bad. There's something genuinely enjoyable about stripping everything back to just melees, no long range combat, no instant headshots from across the map, no guessing where you got killed from or checking the replay to see where you died. Every fight felt personal, every engagement is close combat, and every decision is very important. For a brief moment, it actually felt like everyone was on equal footing. It also created some unintentionally funny moments, operators sprinting through hotel corridors, jumping around the balconies, panic healing during a fight, or trying to juke someone while fixing their broken limb. That novelty carries the mode for a while. But once that novelty wears off, the problems become impossible to ignore. First off, this is the biggest issue and it shows almost immediately. Anything outside the default knife feels straight up overpowered. Weapons like the katana, the ice pick, the shovel, and some of the dual wielding melee options, they have massive advantages. They have longer reach, faster animations, and a more wider hitbox detection. And here's the problem, those weapons you can buy from the store. So what starts as a melee only everybody's on equal footing mode turns into a soft pay-to-win experience. In melee combat, a single swipe to the head or the chest is enough to blacken it, and that basically causes instant death to your player. There's no room for counterplay, there's no chance to recover, and no more exchanges right after. If someone has a longer reaching weapon or faster swinging weapon, they'll win majority of the fights before the other player can even have time to react. And that kills the mode's biggest selling point. Instead of feeling like skill-based chaos, it's like you're gambling on if the enemy paid for a better weapon. I can easily see the players trying the game mode once or twice and then running into a katana or shovel user and immediately giving up. Not because they lost, but because it felt unfair and not fun. Melee combat should feel scrappy, it should feel messy, it should feel tense. But in this mode, most fights are over in 1 or 2 swings. But I do understand the logic. Unarmored body parts, realistic damage equals injured limbs. And that's how Arena Breakout Infinite works. But realism doesn't always equal good gameplay. Giving everyone at least a level 1 or even level 2 armor would have completely changed the experience. Not to make the fights bullet spongy, but allow the melee exchanges to breathe. Longer melee fights would have meant more mind games, better positioning, actual decision making mid-combat, instead of who landed the pixel perfect swipe first. Right now, there's barely any room for outplays. If you mistime one swing, you're dead. And when every fight ends that fast, the mode loses its tension almost immediately. And this one hurts the most. A melee-only mode in a confined hotel map is perfect for proximity chat. This could have been absolute cinema. There would have been trash talking, negotiations, betrayals, someone begging for mercy. Instead, we're stuck with spamming voice lines. And don't get me wrong, the voice lines can be funny for a bit, but they don't even come close to the reality of what proximity chat could do for this game mode. Arena Breakout Infinite has extremely been cautious about adding this feature, and I do get why, because of moderation, toxicity, etc. But modes like these is where proximity chat would shine, and this was the moment to test it out. And without it, the mode feels quiet, very flat, less memorable than it should have been. And here's the harsh truth, melee only is fun for a few matches, and then players move on. There's no progression, no meaningful reward, no real reason to keep queuing. And when you combine that with the recently abysmal loot spawns, it even becomes harder to justify spending any time in that game mode. Why risk time and effort in an LTM if the loot isn't worth it and the fights feel unfair? For a lot of players, this mode isn't something you grind, it's just something you try out. Which is why it works best exactly what it is, a limited time experiment and not a permanent addition. And this is where things start to connect. Arena Breakout Infinite keeps coming up with good ideas like interesting LTMs, fun concepts, experimental gameplay twists, but those ideas keep getting overshadowed by larger and ongoing frustrations. We have out-of-play skins, unresolved balancing issues, core problems that should have been fixed seasons ago. So when something like melee only drops, instead of players fully embracing it, it becomes another point of criticism. Not because the idea is bad, but it feels like the priorities are misaligned. Players would go, oh, this game mode is cool and all, but what about the other stuff we've been asking for? What about the weapon balances, loadout limitations, and the list goes on. And that's not the game mode's fault, but it does affect how it's received. At the end of the day, I did enjoy my time with melee only mode. It reminded me of the old community games we used to run in Lost Light. They were super stupid, chaotic, unserious fun, where winning wasn't really the point. And for that alone, I'm glad it existed. But this game mode was clearly made as a one-off. Something you try, laugh at, maybe clip a moment or two, and then you move on. And honestly, that is fine. Not every mode needs to stick around forever. Melee only mode was fun, I don't regret playing it, but from here, we just move on. Those are my thoughts about the topic. I'd like to know yours. Have you tried melee mode? What do you think about it? Please feel free to share in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like. If you're new here, consider subscribing, come join my live streams and get a chance to be featured in one of the gameplay footages that I use in these kinds of videos. And of course, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you guys in the next one.